Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be invited, Joe.
Thank you, Homero Villarreal from El Defensor magazine and also various publications. I'm honored to have you on today. You actually met, in fact, the whole Chavez family, his brother and everything. Can you tell us about your experience with Cesar Chavez?
I think the Chavez, the whole family, I got to meet his brother Chavez, also Tony Orandine, the founder of the Texas Farm Workers. Remember, the movement started in California and spread over the southwestern states to Texas and other areas. But basically, the Cesar Chavez movement was about here you had the forgotten, the salt of the earth. You know, here we had LULAC, all these middle class organizations in Corpus and California, and but here you had an organization, you know, and we had our ideological differences, the different movements of the time. But then all of a sudden, this group comes along, led by Cesar Chavez, and we started to realize, hey man, our what we're fighting for doesn't even closely equate to what we call a human rights movement. Here you had an individual, a super brain. I mean, no matter how humble you see him, who adopted tactics from Gandhi, who read the nonviolent literature of the times, who felt that Gandhi, this man who had just with a pair of sandals and a cane and a robe, set out to change the world by demystifying people in power, that humble people who could humanize institutions. But here you had in the United States, and the media would taunt him, like the LA Times, the New York Times, so they would say, farm workers are like what, you know, the very bottom. They're unorganizable. And then you have an individual like Cesar Chavez, a worker himself. How can he take on these huge corporations? So here we were watching a super movement. Remember, his movement started in California, but the implications of his movement were global. He was talking about poor people globally in general. He was a role model for the world and taking on agribusiness. He became a symbol where he said, you know what, I'm in California. Most of them are Hispanic. Keeping a large chunk of that population in Delano and other areas in California, Baja California, were Filipinos. You know, so here was organizing Filipinos, the poor, and then he, most of them were Catholic. He utilized the symbolism of La Virgen de Guadalupe, for instance, to unite that icon, religious icon, and the Catholic religion to unite. And he also brought out the Native American part of, because many were Native American, working with him. He used several symbolism to unite a movement culturally and spiritually, and then he got the church involved, priests that were that theology of liberation, of using the faith to go out in the world and help the poor, truly and genuinely change institutions. The movement just took off.
Was the Catholic Church behind him?
Well, there were two in the church. In the Catholic Church, there has always been two traditional movements. You're talking about the administration part. You know, the bishops admit in New York. In the United States, the Catholic pretty much faith is the super group that they have this what they call this Conference of Bishops in New York. And of course, we've had Bishop Gracida here from Corpus Christi that has led. But then you also had your average priest, your missionary priest, the ordinary guy that's out in the field, the true believer, you know, the guy that's not dealing with the budgets and the bank accounts, saying, you know what, this is something I stand for. You know, this is something about utilizing spirituality, and that gave the movement a strong cohesion. It created an alloy of different minds coming in. But keep in mind, here you had, let me just zoom in on Corpus Christi real quick. Corpus Christi is, here we founded the LULAC. You had Hector P. Garcia that founded the American GI Forum. And you had your ideological difference, but then Chavez comes along, and their ideology automatically united everybody, because the way he structured that organization together was in a way that was inclusive and united everybody. They did try to demonize him, but he exposed a part of America of how huge corporations were utilizing immigration, were utilizing something he called human surplus value. Where did the profits from the huge agribusiness come from? And he said, you know what? There's a dual wage system. Look at the people I work with. They have no running water, working in the fields, no minimum wage, no toilets. The basic necessities of humanity.
And what do you mean by human surplus?
Human surplus value. It's an economist from Europe that came up with how do huge corporations really make their money. And you won't hear the Coke refineries and there's other huge corporations talk about it. But basically, the way it's done is, they have a dual system where they bring in workers, they make them work more hours, basically exploitation for profit. And it's wired into many of the huge corporate. When Chavez did that, they automatically began to label him as a communist, and he said, this model that we're talking about in America, and people were shocked, because then you had the English media, you had the European media, you had the German media zoom in and say, what? No basic water in America? Is this America, the United States, that's being glorified and idealized throughout this great industrial nation of the world? No medical services, no toilets, people hacerle cada quien como pudiera, sobrevivir. People were shocked. They were looking at apartheid in South Africa. They were looking, but here you had this in the Southwest daily front pages exposing. So basically, the unions were split. American unions were split on the other issues. So they brought in what you called workers. They started boycotting many of the products in the community, and people joined in. They started going after particular products that wouldn't submit to collective bargaining, wouldn't submit to certain basic rights for human beings. But his movement was about a nonviolent movement. Here you had an individual, a Mexican American Gandhi, so to speak, educating the world that through your wits, through the power of organization, through the power of culture, you could unite people.
Could you tell us a little bit about
you elevate a little bit the institutions? Go ahead.
Could you tell us a little bit about what he was like?
Cesar Chavez was an extremely humble man. He lived, you see the way he dresses, the way he communicates. He quoted a lot of, if he were to look for quotes and literature to quote from, he would quote Native American leaders. He would turn to early organizers that history didn't recognize much. He turned through the humblest of the humble to show that they could empower themselves, that basically it was their spirit that was going to unite them. And basically many movements throughout the world joined them in the end. He became and it was a time where you had the Chicano movement. people using just ethnicity, and we were just focused on discrimination in South Texas, discrimination in New Mexico. How could we hire more teachers that could represent us appropriately in the school system? But here you had an individual that was, his movement was about poor people in general, poor people that had been wronged by elites in the world. And he gave us a global perspective. A very humble man, gave us a very global perspective in ordinary words, in a platform that was very easy for you to understand. We don't have running water. We're fighting for running. Can you understand what running?
Well, you know,
the bullet points that he had were I think, and he prayed a lot. He meditated a lot. So we did see those results. Texas immediately, even today, you see that when people fought to have roads named after him, you saw corporations automatically go against him because he exposed some of the
we have Cesar Chavez Highway right here in 44.
Yes, yeah. But then you have your Texas Board of Education eliminating Chavez from the textbooks, trying to destroy many of the leaders, role models. How many role models do Hispanics have in the
I think that part of what we're doing here today is to try to remind those leaders in Texas that they need to bring back a modern curriculum that educates students about Cesar Chavez.
Absolutely, but then you have throughout the nation now individuals like in Iowa, what's his name, Congressman Bruce Braley, that was a farmer. And he could completely understand what Cesar Chavez was talking about, and how corporate bureaucracy has become so callous and so cold to the point that agribusiness. Here you have some guy in New York that invests his millions in a country in South America, and people there are working for slave wages, no running water, and he doesn't even know what's going on. So stuff like that is being exposed. I think it's a long way for the movement to grow, but I think Cesar Chavez, especially to the oppressed, because he transcends the Hispanic movement, and I've said that, as he's a symbol of resistance. As long as we don't give in, we're not conquered. As long as we don't give in and we educate our children, we raise their consciousness. That's what he always talked about. Concientización, he called it, raising the consciousness of people to humanize institution and make a better world. I think it's carried a lot of cultural element, a lot of spiritual elements.
And let me ask you this. We see the concerted movement of corporate America and super PACs attacking congressmen here in Texas, past congressmen with past farming histories in their family, like Congressman Braley, who will reach out to Hispanics and say, it's Cesar Chavez Day. Latinos are really coming into their own, even in Iowa, where their communities, it was unheard of to have Latinos. And how hard is it for those leaders to have the courage to come out and
I think
try to stand up?
Mr. Congressman Bradley clearly understands the agenda of agribusiness. If it goes unchecked, he's not saying let's eliminate agribusiness. He's saying let's look into it and regulate, because the powerful will always have power over the rich, And I think there was somebody in history that said, the rich keep the poor thinking rich and eating poor, and that's what it's all about. How do you control people? We don't use guns anymore. Chavez knew that. He said, they're going to start pointing guns at us when we go to the boycotts. We're going to have public opinion in our side. Same thing Gandhi did. How do you control people? The way you control people now is agribusiness gets together, hires marketing companies, shoots out all these ads. They have the money to do their spin doctrine in people's minds. But if you persist now with social media that's growing, with other elements that people can utilize, you can get on your computer and you're sort of like a warrior now. You know, you're putting out all this information, raising the consciousness of people of how agribusiness can have a community over there isolated, that they have no running water, they have no toilets, they have no no medical insurance, no minimum wage. That's how you humanize the system. Remember, we find ourselves in an age where most industrial countries provide these very basic services. The world was shocked when Chavez, a brilliant man that utilized the falcon. You know, a lot of people don't know, a Native American symbol of where the Mexica said, one day we will return to our homelands, you know, of Colorado and Arizona, and we will remind our children of who we are. And so it carried a Native American folklore at the same time to, because people needed their spirits boosted, you know. So is Cesar Chavez a great man? I think he's been one of my heroes. He will be a symbol, and people don't realize that you go to India and he's in the textbooks. You go to Thailand, he's in the textbook. You go to the Philippines, where you have Lapu Lapu, and many people here, they haven't heard of who was Lapu Lapu, a famous a Filipino. By the way, he took on Magellan, you know, Magellan that traveled around the world. Well, he's the guy that killed Magellan after he killed his mom and his dad and everybody else. He said, you know what, I'm an ordinary guy. He raised his army and said, he brought down this huge army led by Magellan. So here you have Chavez, where as long as people stand for their families and communities, that's how you're going to do it. And that's what it's all about.
The 10-year-old, the 15-year-old, the 25-year-old, the 30-year-old, they're going to see this movie on Cesar Chavez. What should they be keeping in mind? You lived it. You had the experience with him at the time, 2-3 decades ago and more. What should they be keeping in mind when they view the movie?
I think that Cesar Chavez, here you have most leaders in American history, whether you go to Benjamin Franklin or, you know, anywhere, most of them have been upper middle class, have come from but his concept of what is human worth. Cesar Chavez, human worth is his words were simple, es la dignidad del humano. I mean, he talks about, it's very simple yet very philosophical. He's saying you are not human if people deprive you of certain things that rob you of your respect. That's one thing. The other thing that the young need to remember, here's this great role model that he said, la tierra es del que la trabaja. And that was the early history of humankind. In the Native American saying that basically the land belonged to those that work the land, that utilize the land, not that have the money to purchase and conquer those lands, place a flag there and say it's mine, you know, sort of a guy.
It's
anyway,
the farmer. It's the farmer and the worker.
It's saying, you know what, it's an earth, a mother earth, and we should respect it. We, you know, with the beautiful concepts that he utilized from his culture. I think what young kids lack today is role models. And I think removing him from the textbooks here in Texas is a shame. Everybody that sits in that board and he helped eliminate Cesar Chavez has to be ousted from that Board of Education. I think we have Mary Helen Berlanga here in Corpus Christi that fought with all her might to keep Cesar Chavez. She got overwhelmed by certain forces. Sometimes the other groups remove them. They feel there's an element in society that feels threatened, that this is Western society, and Western society only means Anglos. It only means white society. And then it's basically a super right extremist group that feel that's so myopic, that feel that the America's going to be contaminated if there's any other influences.
And thus
around.
they go after the congressional leaders.
And that's why they're trying. There's still little power groups here and there. They still control the money, but in time, basic mathematics, and the basic mathematics is with multiplying in numbers. We have huge corporations and power figures like the Koch brothers that are still playing this game of eugenics and turning one group against another by channeling monies like against Congressman Bradley in Iowa, that they don't want him to become one of the first senators there. So Braley is a wonderful individual that received Cesar Chavez with open arms and said, America needs a role model to balance the picture in America of what the world is all about. Because the working man, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Asian, your parents played a role in shaping America. It wasn't an elite group of people and their propaganda that shaped what you call Western culture. Western culture is a much broader concept than these individuals have turned it into a political, callous, cold concept to creating a we-they. We live in an America that should be inclusive. We live in an America that's growing. Anything that remains stagnant, this comes from Cesar Chavez. Cualquier cosa que no cambia se muere. In other words, he noticed that even a plant grows, a seed grows, anything that remains stagnant dies. If you don't have America changing and adjusting to the cultural and social changes, America is not going to be able to compete with the other groups in the world. The other thing is America suffering from a cultural lag? And by cultural lag, in accepting what's going on, yes, it is clearly reflected in individuals that are channeling huge amount of dollars to target individuals like Braley from that's running for senator in Iowa. I mean, this individual, Cesar Chavez, when you go to the movie, he's a symbol of resistance. That we as a people are gonna die, and you should die with your eyes open. You should die with those two elements that make you human, and that's dignity and respect. If a corporation is not going to have running water, if a corporation is not going to support you to run for office unless you only support agribusiness and what I called human surplus value or human exploitation, not paying people their proper wages to generate huge profits, then it's not right. We want an America that is inclusive. We want an America where we have an economy that will be thriving. We don't have to sell our souls and our hearts, because once we do, we're no longer human. We become subhuman. And that was basically Chavez's philosophy. To be complete is our goal. What is to be complete? Pelea por tu dignidad, muchacho. Pelea por tu dignidad. Hold your role models dear. They will amplify your spirit. This is what will make you strong. Once they take that away, you're weak. And the elites that have been in power have been playing that game for so long. And long live Cesar Chavez, his power of huelga, the Gandhis of this world, the people that just, simple human beings, the Gandhi with some sandals and a cane and a robe said, I'm setting out to change the world. And they laughed, está loco, ese viejo pelón.
Yeah.
Imagine these beautiful, beautiful human beings if there is Christianity, if there is love, if there is something, this utopia that we should shoot for, it is before our very eyes. If that doesn't move you, hermanos, something that Cesar Chavez and Gandhi brought out, I think, and I'll finalize it here, is that who is going to save the world? You know, and a discussion that leaders, nonviolent leaders, were having throughout the world, and they said, well, the people that are conquered or are dominated are waiting for a Messiah. They're waiting for a Zorro. They're waiting for a Batman. They're waiting for somebody to come in and, well, not Batman, but excuse me. They're waiting for a superhero to come in, a Superman, and help them out. And but it's all inside you. Think about your worth, who you are. Value yourself. Value your family. Value your community. Those things that are good. But remember, salvation in a civilization, they said. And this is what has always amazed me from this two particular individuals, Gandhi and Chavez, is salvation, they said, will not come from the top to the bottom. It will not pipe down. It's going to be the other way around. The people that have the heart and the consciousness at the bottom are the truly people that are connected with this humanitarian consciousness. They're the ones, the people on top that have sold their souls and this amplified this cruelty throughout the world need more saving than we do. So it's a beautiful concept, and it'll help you rethink a lot of the literature.
Let me ask you this.
That we were given.
What we're looking at in a microcosm, just one race, this Braley race, where a lot of Hispanics are getting behind him. But on the opposite side, he has America Rising, Super PAC against him, the Koch brothers against him, and others in the midterms. They're trying to usurp these Democratic people that want to be senators or House of Representatives. What role can Latinos play to conquer and fight against those multi-million-dollar campaigns to bring down leaders that support Hispanics like Congressman Braley?
What did Chavez talk about? He said, "Si se puede." And what did that mean? Si se puede. As long as you resist and you don't let anybody dominate you, you're never conquered. Remember, conquering somebody else, they used to do it with arms and knives. Guns don't conquer you, brother. Not guns don't conquer. The Bible says that. They have to conquer you spiritually. They have to conquer you mentally. And here you have this guy, Braley, that I think should become a symbol for Latinos that say, ¿sabes qué? We're going to make this guy senator in Iowa, and it's going to be a tremendous psychological victory just because of a single thing. He amplified one of our greatest role models, and not only one of our greatest role models, one of the most sincere, one of the most spiritual, one of the most that said, it's going to make us complete. And I think Braley is going to be an individual that I think if the marketing companies do it right, can help show the world how the Latino vote can be reached. Because what is the basis of organization in Braley's race? Reaching Latinos is culture is a basis of organization. So quickly, if you can overnight quickly create an organization around Braley, a bandwagon to reach that goal, it's going to be by going to one of the top leaders they admire, which is Chavez, and looking at Braley's background, looking at Braley's approach and platform, how it's going to... Braley's basically extending what Cesar Chavez talked about, and that's humanizing, regulating, and at the same time amplifying opportunities and having running water, having better pay.
We have Hispanics, Latinos that are embracing this congressman because the Republicans do not embrace Hispanics in Iowa. They don't embrace Hispanics, period, nationwide as a general rule. They don't want our culture.
Yeah.
They don't want us as a rule to come over and work as migrant workers. They have wanted more walls, more barriers, more bridge. We should have more bridges between Hispanics. What do you think other leaders like Braley that want to keep their seats and want that Hispanic vote in all the states for our Latino brothers and sisters should do? What do the Latinos need to do to be behind leaders like him?
Don't sell your soul to the PACs. Don't sell your soul to the PACs. Don't sell your soul to the paranoid groups of eugenics. Don't sell your soul to those groups that want to stop that natural social change in society. Don't give in to people that suffer from xenophobia and cultural lag, that are still haven't adjusted to the real world, to the mathematics.
That Latinos
are amplifying in numbers. There's nothing you can do to stop the Latino families, intermarriage. If you're going to be fighting those causes to try and continue that dehumanization that stems back, you're living in a medieval period, brother. And this is an age of enlightenment. We see it in Iowa, where they're trying to build that in Iowa, and it's clear we need a new enlightenment. We need what Cesar Chavez called concientización, and we need Bruce Bailey for senator, damas y caballeros. And I appeal to all Latinos. We need to see Braley as a symbol and as an extension of what Cesar Chavez stood for. And he stood about humanizing institutions and about the ordinary guy being able to have a voice and unite, collective bargaining, humanizing institutions, bringing back to schools our leaders. There's a lot of Anglos that have been taken out of history, a lot of blacks that have been taken out of history, just because the PACs don't like those individuals, because they promote social change and regulation of unregulated, what I talked about, human surplus value.
Homero Villarreal, El
Always
Defensor.
A true pleasure to be here, and honestly, y viva Cesar Chavez.